Alright everybody, now that I'm a little bit dressed better, let's get down into the list that everybody wants to see before January is out. But I also want to point out that this list in particular was kind of hard to make because there were a lot of films I loved this year, like Pete's Dragon, Bleed for This, Fences, Kung Fu Panda 3, Deepwater Horizon, Nocturnal Animals, Live by Night, Star Trek Beyond, Don't Breathe, 10 Cloverfield Lane, The Witch, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Ratchet and Clank, Snowden, Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. Shut up. There were so many films I ended up loving this year that I wanted to put on this list, but at the end of the day, I had to make an executive decision. But with that said,
let's count them down.
And it's sweet, sweet, sweet victory, yeah. And it's ours for the taking. It's ours for the fight. And it's sweet, sweet, sweet victory, yeah. And the waters last
Shit. Did I leave the stove on?
and it's sweet, sweet, sweet victory.
Number 15, The Magnificent Seven. As a remake of the original John Sturges film, which was in itself a remake of Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, this new version of The Magnificent Seven once again sees 7 people team up in order to defend a town from a tyrant.
and it was awesome!
What I love most about this film is the chemistry that the titular 7 share. I mean, considering it is a film about teamwork, having these guys have good chemistry should be one of the most important things to get right. You really get to know just about each and every one of them in good detail, what their experiences were before grouping up, and they all managed to get a chance to shine in the spotlight. You could have easily had the entire film be about these 7 guys sitting in a bar playing poker, and it still would be just as interesting. Which brings me to the action scenes. And I have to say, this had some of the best action scenes that I've seen in any Western these past few years.
Yeah, sure, it may not have the violence that Quentin Tarantino's previous 2 westerns have, but it makes up for it with its overload of excitement.
Hell, if Fuqua's new Scarface is PG-13 but it still had scenes that are just as exciting as this, then that's fine by me. With every action scene and every little interaction that these characters share, it never once feels dull. It's a shame that this film never came out during the summer because it has all the elements that really make a fun action summer blockbuster.
I mean, I honestly had more fun watching this movie than I did any of the superhero movies that came out last year. Well, maybe except for one. If you haven't seen this movie yet, definitely go out and buy the Blu-ray and have yourself a gunslinging good time. So far, so good.
I'ma put your lights out. We can do this right now. I'm ready. Whoa.
How'd we do? I think we killed them all.
Number 14, The Meddler.
If you remember my worst of the year list, you would know that I briefly mentioned this movie as the alternative option to Hello, My Name is Doris. And now you know exactly why.
The film tells of Marnie Minervini, an aging widow who moves to LA to try and reconnect with her daughter, Lori, and finds herself meddling with the lives of other people around her to fill in the void in her life.
And I think that's what I truly love about this movie. It's just a simple, down-to-earth slice-of-life film as we follow a character with a little bit too much time on our hands. Nothing more and nothing less.
Susan Sarandon is very likable as Marnie, still keeping an optimistic sense of view despite a lot of harsh bumps in her life. Someone who's willing to throw in a helping hand simply because she can and never once drops that welcoming presence that she carries throughout the film. Considering she's playing a mother in this movie and is a mother in real life, it would make sense that she would have that kind of presence to her. And as for her daughter Lori, Rose Byrne does a great job playing a struggling writer that feels her mother is a bit too clingy, but still appreciative of what she does. You really do buy their chemistry and how they work off of each other so damn well as any mother-daughter relationship would go whenever these two pop up on screen.
I know this film may not be some high-class art or epic blockbuster comedy, because don't worry, we got the rest of the list to go over, but come on, isn't it just nice to have a film that's a little bit more relaxing? I mean, I found it enjoyable.
I believe in anything. It's true.
Can I just take a selfie?
Who are you sending a selfie to? Ooh.
Lou, I'm not talking about it. Who are you texting?
Need to have sex with someone and you can't be here for it. I still need a ride to the airport.
Number 13, Deadpool.
I know, right?
Pretty obvious that this film would be on my list, considering the kind of praise that I and everybody else has given it.
And I know that this film may not have as good of writing as in Captain America Civil War, or as good direction as Doctor Strange or X-Men Apocalypse, or as much grit as Batman v Superman and that giant piece of wasted potential and time that we shall never speak of again. But it didn't need to.
Deadpool just needed to be a fun movie with a batshit insane character that can kick ass. And that's exactly what it gave me, but it delivered much, much more.
Deadpool to me is one of those rare examples of a comedy where no matter how many times I've seen it, I'm still laughing as hard as I did the first time when I saw it in theaters. And considering the first time I watched it was immediately after I saw Zoolander 2, you could tell I was laughing pretty damn hard.
I can get why this film wouldn't exactly appeal to everybody, especially with it being a specific type of humor, but I would still say go out and watch this movie, whatever way you can. And with its upcoming sequel, I'm hoping it'll deliver the same amount of chaotic enjoyment that the first one delivered with,
As Ryan Reynolds senpai would say,
Maximum effort.
I'm touching myself tonight.
X gon' give it to ya. He gon' give it to ya. X gon' give it to ya. He gon' give it to ya.
Number 12, Hacksaw Ridge.
I know the past decade hasn't necessarily put Mel Gibson in a good spot at all, but if there's one thing I can still admit about the guy is that he is really talented.
And the proof of that can be seen in Hacksaw Ridge, a film based on the life of Desmond Doss, the conscientious objector turned hero at the Battle of Hacksaw Ridge during World War II. If there is one genre that Mel Gibson excels at, it's war films. Whether they be ones he's directed or starred in, there's always something special about him to look forward to, and this one is no exception. The cinematography, the editing, and the graceful manner that everything is showcased in makes it really hard for me to find anything that I didn't like about it. Andrew Garfield gives a phenomenal performance as Desmond Doss. You get a proper understanding for his views of violence and how he exemplifies himself as a man of his word, regardless of consequences. I'm really happy to know that after this and Silence, Garfield has been getting a lot of the praise that he most rightfully deserves. Hell, I'm still one of those people who would defend him as the best actor to portray Spider-Man.
I know a lot of people have already jumped on the bandwagon with Tom Holland, but I'm gonna wait until July to see if he can actually carry his own as the character without any help.
Forget the flying monster guy. There are people who handle this sort of thing.
God damn it, Marvel.
And it's not just Garfield that excels in this movie, but everybody else in the film too. Teresa Palmer as Doss's fiancée, Sam Worthington, Ryan Corr, and Richard Roxburgh as the higher ranks, Hugo Weaving as his father, and surprisingly enough, Vince Vaughn as the drill sergeant was really damn good too.
A lot of the major complaints that I have heard about the film is that how it's nothing but religious pandering and glorified violence. Not exactly true.
Pure Flix movies are religious pandering. Kirk Cameron is religious pandering. Hacksaw Ridge is not. There are religious themes in the movie, yes, but they could have easily been applied to anybody who's a hater of violence regardless of religious beliefs. It's a film more about a man keeping his moral standards and sense of humanity with him after being brought to such horrific events, a theme that was showcased similarly in films like Deepwater Horizon and Patriots Day.
As for the glorified violence, honestly, I didn't think it was any different from the kind of violence we saw in Saving Private Ryan, Glory, or Fury.
If you don't see it that way, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own views on a movie. But at the end of the day, I will still say that Hacksaw Ridge is a Mel Gibson movie that I'd happily recommend.
You better come home to me.
Please, Lord, help me get one more. Help me get one more.
Number 11, Nerve.
You know those kinds of movies that people describe as a product of their time? Well, that's how I would describe Nerve. In a few years, I know this film is going to be outdated as hell, but that isn't going to take away any of my enjoyment for this movie.
In a very intense truth or dare style competition, high school senior V decides to be more like her friend Sydney and be more ambitious and adventurous before the year is done. She ends up teaming up with the previous Nerf player, Ian, where she's roped into a chaotic situation that she can only get out if she wins.
The different kind of dares that these characters go through in this film are absolutely insane. From going 60 miles per hour blindfolded, to hanging off a crane for 10 seconds, to even lying underneath a train. And even when it isn't doing the dare segments, the rest of the film still manages to give you that thrilling sense of fun it aims to give the audiences. And to me, that's its strongest aspect.
Emma Roberts and Dave Franco are absolutely enjoyable in this film. From their high energy to their quips, they really show off a nice chemistry throughout the entire film. From V's transformation from the pretty girl next door to becoming a bold daredevil, and Ian's secrecy and determination to correct his mistakes in the past, they show that they can be a really excellent duo to get hooked with. I felt like this film came at just the right time because of its unique take on our society. From people being obsessed with watching these insane dares that go too far, especially in the climax of the film, it made me think of a modern day version of the Warriors, if you ask me.
If you haven't seen Nerve yet, get the Blu-ray, grab some friends over for that Saturday afternoon barbecue, and let the fun begin.
No way.
Players, show us your weapons.
Number 10, Sing Street. Want a 1980s movie about using music to win the girl's heart and fight off the authorities of education? Well, you've got plenty of other films to choose from, but Sing Street is a very good contender if you ask me.
If you remember correctly, you would know that John Carney's last film, Begin Again, was among my favorite films of 2014. And I can say the same thing with 2016, as Sing Street makes my list.
From its fun rebel story to its likable characters, it definitely has the feeling of a true 1980s story about a boy who doesn't belong in a new environment, trying to win the girl's heart with music. Sure, it's cliche, but with how well executed it is, it manages to be one of the most likable films that handles this.
And I gotta hand it to the cast for really doing such a great job in making you believe their passion for music, whatever way it took.
Speaking of music, the songs are what really make this musical rebel story the best. While it may feature well-known songs from bands like Duran Duran and Hall & Oates, the original songs by John Carney and Gary Clark are what I came out humming out the most. Songs like Drive It Like You Stole It and Brown Shoes are what really stick with you after watching the movie, and I'm happy that they do so.
I had said in my best of 2014 list that if John Carney's first film Once can be brought to Broadway, then I'm hoping the same could be said for Begin Again. And now, I'm giving those same best wishes to Sing Street. If you haven't seen it yet, the Blu-ray's available, go check it out.
I actually love this band.
Number 9, The Nice Guys. If there's one film that had me laughing more than Deadpool did, it would be this film. The Nice Guys is about a private eye and a messenger getting roped into a case about cars, the environment, political corruption, and porn.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What really makes this buddy cop movie work the best is, well, the buddy cops. Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling are absolutely hilarious, and not once does their energy feel low in this movie.
Their timing is excellent, their delivery is brilliant, and I just absolutely love how they're able to work off of each other so damn well.
With Crowe's no-nonsense attitude contrasting against Gosling's extremely cocky but cowardly persona, each scene with them on screen together just had me rolling on the floor with laughter each passing line. And not just that, but a lot of the supporting cast gets their moment to shine as well, especially Angourie Rice, who plays Gosling's daughter. I just love how much of a smartass she is towards her dad, but in a way that still makes her very likable. I applaud how her dialogue was written, and Rice's delivery really adds to the charm. She's definitely earned a spot as one of the best child stars working in recent memory. Not only that, but the action scenes are so entertaining and well directed, and not once does it lose its pace.
It really pisses me off how this film tanked at the box office, because this was so much better than some of the other blockbusters that came out this year. And hell, even on the Blu-ray, Shane Black had admitted that he could have easily made 5 or 6 more films with these two characters alone. Life isn't fair.
We're the world's worst detectives.
Got a cool head, though. I made your head small because I know you're sensitive about how big it is.
Yeah. Rated R. In theaters May 20th.
Number 8. Arrival. Talk about a caught-off-guard movie, if you ask me. After 12 extraterrestrial monoliths appear across the world, the US military enlists the help of Louise Banks, a linguist, to decipher the language of this species and find out what its main goal is. While I may not have been that big a fan of his last film, Sicario, Denis Villeneuve really brought his A-game with this science fiction epic, reminding me of why I fell in love with his ambitious directing in films such as Prisoners and Enemy. I especially love how the film is dedicated mostly to just deciphering the language and seeing the interactions with this new species, and it always keeps it fascinating through and through.
While there are great performances in the film, especially from Jeremy Renner and Forrest Whitaker, the main lead is what steals the show.
Amy Adams as Louise Banks is absolutely spectacular, and this marks it as one of her best performances yet. While she is another one of those characters that has the fate of the world put on her shoulders, it's handled in a way that's done drastically different that it makes it feel very fresh. I also love how this film is still technically her story with the kinds of twists and turns that it gives you, especially at the ending where it just leaves you in tears.
And much like Gravity, The Martian, and Interstellar, I would most happily put Arrival among the list of new modern sci-fi classics. Something that Neil Blomkamp wishes he could make. Fucking hack.
Why does this feel worse?
Number 7. The Edge of 17. Much in the same vein of films like The Spectacular Now, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, and Sing Street, The Edge of 17 is a very touching love letter to the films of John Hughes that focused on high schoolers.
And may I say, this was a hell of a lot more heartfelt than I was expecting.
In this film, we follow the story of Nadine Franklin, a moody teenager who, after finding out that her best friend is dating her brother, she goes on an emotional journey with nobody that truly understands her and trying to figure out what to do with her life for the rest of high school. I was really impressed with the kind of script that Kelly Freeman Craig was able to deliver that not only related to high school girls, but just about anybody in general.
I'm pretty sure everybody's had that awkward phase in high school where we ate lunch with our teachers, were shy as fuck with crushes, felt completely oblivious to friends we never knew we had temper tantrums with family that never got us, and felt like the world was completely against us every step of the way.
And the cast delivers the kind of message that the script was going for very nicely. Haley Steinfeld is one of my favorite young actresses, and I'd go as far as to say that Nadine is my favorite character that she's played. While I do love it when she's playing a badass like in True Grit or Ender's Game, she really sold it as a down-to-earth teenager just trying to get through high school. I especially loved her scenes with Woody Harrelson as her sarcastic but likable teacher. Seeing these two go at it but still maintaining a good friendship is really heartfelt and adds more to the humor than it did before.
And while I do love this movie, would I say it's my favorite coming-of-age story of the year? No. That's actually coming up next.
No, oh my god, no! Oh,
This isn't so bad. I just want to be with you. I want you to put your mouth on my tits. I want to feel you inside me. God, you can do it in the Hitman stockroom.
Oh my god, say something, please help me!
You need to watch out for run-on sentences.
Number 6. Moonlight. The best way I can describe this film is it's kind of like Boyhood. Only if Boyhood had an interesting protagonist. Moonlight chronicles the life of Chiron, a boy who we observe along with the relationships he has with 3 different people. His crackhead mother, a drug-dealing couple who treat him kindly, and his best friend who he has homosexual feelings for. While I had a lot of enjoyment with The Edge of 17 because of how relatable it was, Barry Jenkins gave off a film that I couldn't relate to but still found really damn solid regardless. I felt myself completely glued to Chiron's story and I couldn't turn away from it, and all I gotta say, I was really glad to catch it when I did.
When you look at the kind of people and environment that Chiron is surrounded by on a day-to-day basis, no matter what age he's at, it really tells you that he is not in the best place for somebody like him. and then to see him slowly evolve to adapt to that kind of environment is both haunting, yet very fascinating.
While I really enjoyed a lot of the performances in this film, especially from the people that played Chiron, the two that really stuck out the most were Naomi Harris as Chiron's mom and Mahershala Ali as Juan, the guy that becomes Chiron's surrogate father figure. When you see these two as Chiron goes back and forth between them, you really do see a striking difference between the two, and the irony that the mother is the bad influence, yet the drug dealer selling to her is not. It's off-putting, but at the same time, it kind of makes sense.
And considering that these two are both big frontrunners for Best Supporting Actor and Actress, they certainly got my vote for the category. And as for the rest of the film, it deserves every bit of praise that it's given.
Who is you, man? I ain't seen you in like a decade. It's not what I expected. What did you expect?
Number 5, Zootopia.
If there was one film to prove to people that animated films can be a lot smarter than what people are giving them credit for, then my first example would be Inside Out. But Zootopia comes at a close second.
This may seem like the typical buddy cop film with anthropomorphic animals, but Zootopia takes it a step further by delivering a story about prejudice, stereotyping, racism, and political corruption all in a very clever and well thought way. I was completely floored by how well thought out this film was and how it treated every single member of its audience like adults. The dialogue is some of the most tightly written that I've seen this year, and the way it's delivered is outstanding.
It's interesting how we've come a long way assuming that animation would only be associated with children, yet when you truly analyze some of the more mature works, such as with this film, you realize that a lot of animated films can get anybody invested regardless of age, and they can have something worth talking about.
Despite this film having modern-day references, the story feels timeless, as a lot of the issues that are present in the movie are the same issues that we've been facing for the longest time now. And much like with Inside Out, it delivers it in a way that both adults and kids can get an equal understanding of.
I'm hoping that the Academy not only acknowledges this film with a Best Animated Feature nomination, but also a nomination for Best Original Screenplay and Best Picture. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely seek out the Blu-ray and give it a watch.
We gotta go.
Whose car is it?
The most feared crime boss, Mr. Big.
Is that Mr. Big?
Stop talking.
Awesome.
Daddy! What did we say? No icing anyone at my wedding!
I have to, baby. Daddy has to.
Number 4, Hell or High Water. While there are still fun westerns being made today, like with The Magnificent Seven, it's worth noting that there are still ones that have a lot more depth behind them than you'd expect. Hell or High Water tells the story of two brothers, Toby and Tanner, who pull early bank robberies in order to pay off mortgages for their ranch, all while on the hot trail of Texas Rangers, Marcus Hamilton and Alberto Parker.
Let me start off by saying, the acting in this film is phenomenal.
Chris Pine and Ben Foster nail these performances, and it easily stands as their best. I mean, sure, I've liked these two beforehand and other things, but this is where I came out saying that these two sold me with their acting alone. Considering one's gone through a rough divorce and the other just got out of jail, you grow attached to these two as they struggle to keep one thing that they've got left of their mother's memory.
You really dive into what makes these two such enjoyable characters as you realize they're not really bad guys, they're just two people trying to make ends meet, even if it resorts to drastic measures.
Same can be said with the Texas Rangers. Jeff Bridges and Gil Birmingham are just as enjoyable to sit through as they're both at the end of their careers, but they try to make the best of it whatever way they can possible. Make the case an adventure, and if it gets too far, then again, drastic measures will be drawn. With the film only being 2 hours long, it makes you kind of wish it was a little bit longer just so you could hear these characters talk. Every one of them feels like you can have a drink with them just so you could hear the kind of dialogue that they have to say. I'm really glad that David Mackenzie was able to bring Taylor Sheridan's script to life with his direction, because he really delivered a solid movie. While it may not be as blockbuster fun as The Magnificent Seven or Django Unchained, I can't help but praise Hell or High Water as the best Western that we've had this decade. Number 3. Kubo and the Two Strings. After the complete and utter letdown that was the Box Trolls, Laika Studios struck back with delivering what can only be described as their best film. After dark forces sent by his grandpa find him and his mother's hiding home near a small village, Kubo must journey across the lands with a monkey and beetle samurai to find his father's armor and sword, which he's only heard about through legend, to end this cat and mouse game.
If there's one major appealing thing I can say about Laika is that regardless of their films, the animation is spectacular.
The dedication and hard work that they put up with, and on a consistently low budget, is absolutely impressive. And with the kind of film that Kubo is, the way paper moves in this film, the scenery, the character designs, and the action scenes, it's hard not to admire what they do. I also love how this film had a similar presence to the show Samurai Jack, mostly in its directing. It has a lot of calming moments, letting the atmosphere soak in and letting the visuals tell the story to you. And that calming nature is further exemplified with its voice acting. As you can tell, a lot of them are keeping their tone and voice very laid back and quiet, especially with Matthew McConaughey as the Beetle Samurai. The film also impressed me with how it handles a lot of deeper themes that deal with family and death, that it actually had me in tears sitting through it. It really pisses me off that this film bombed at the box office and... Hey, wait a minute.
Actually, now that I think about it, a lot of the films that I liked this year were total bombs. I mean, seriously, how is it that films like Deepwater Horizon, The Nice Guys, The Magnificent Seven, Bleed for This, and Snowden were all bombs, yet films like The Girl on the Train, Warcraft, and Suicide Squad were hits? Like, really?
If you must blink. Do it now.
Before we continue on, let me announce to those who don't know that Manchester by the Sea is not on my list, because I didn't like the movie. Yes, Casey Affleck gave a great performance in this movie, but it's not worth sitting this long and tedious 2.5-hour drag. The pacing is awful, the narrative flow is jumbled, and there were barely any investing moments to be had with it. Considering it's a story about death in the family and going through a deep, dark depression, I was hoping to find some relation to it, but I just found it poorly executed and didn't think it deserved as much praise. Affleck was good, but that was it. Lucas Hedges was good, but that was it. Michelle Williams, while her part was very small, was good, but that was it. In fact, the one performance about a character going through depression is one that hardly anybody has even talked about. Which one is that? Simple. Rebecca Hall. Number 2, Christine. For those who don't know, the film is rather based on the true story of Christine Chubbuck, the Florida news reporter who sadly ended her life by committing suicide on live TV after a long struggling battle with depression due to stress from work, family, and severe health problems. The film takes place during the last few living days of Christine's life as she slowly but inevitably spirals into the dark pit with each passing day and how it ultimately affects everybody around her. Like I said, this was one of the most haunting experiences I've had with a movie. Considering it was in such limited release, so limited that I had to drive across town to get to a theater playing it, and found myself one of 3 people seeing it, it truly added an unsettling mood to what is remotely an unsettling movie to sit through. From the dull color schemes, the slow pacing, the way music switches from stressful to hauntingly sad, and how you remind yourself that this is a true story, you get that unnerving feeling in the pit of your stomach that makes you think you're watching a snuff film.
But after everything that I've said, the one thing that makes this film impactful is Rebecca Hall as Christine.
Much like with Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler, Rebecca Hall easily delivers the best performance not only of her career, but of the entire year. She completely disappears into this performance, and all you're left seeing is Christine Chubbuck, a Florida reporter living in an environment that constantly left her stressed, whether it be from lousy work conditions or lack of support from friends and family, and cursed with health problems that only made her mental state much worse.
Look, it's great we caught it so early. It's very manageable at this stage. We just need to take it out in the next few months.
The cyst.
The whole ovary. It's the only way to make sure the issue doesn't recur. But it's a very manageable surgery. It's tantamount to having your tonsils out. The only issue is, of course, it can create complications should you want to conceive in the future.
Are you saying that if I have this treated that I that I won't be able to have, that I have 2 months to have a baby.
I'm not saying that at all.
It all just makes you wish deep down inside that it doesn't turn out the way it does, and it makes it all the more heartbreaking when you see reality unfold before your eyes.
And if I may say so, I don't blame Christine.
I know a lot of people are going to say that suicide is completely selfish, but here's the truth. It's not. The real selfishness comes from those who fail to understand that person's pain. The pain of feeling like you're a burden, stuck dealing with people who treat it like it's a mood swing, the world is against you, and everything that you do to try to fix it only makes things worse. Anybody who has suffered from depression knows exactly how that feels when it constantly brings you down almost every day, and how dangerously close it can get you to just wanting to free yourself from that pain.
I would know, being someone who's walked that path for some time now.
People can praise Manchester by the Sea all they want, but if you want a film that handles depression as its subject matter to a better extent, this is the film to turn your attention towards. And my number one favorite film of 2016 is Damien Chazelle's La La Land. If there is one word to describe this movie, it's reassuring. I can't tell you how I felt experiencing a film such as this because words alone would not do it justice whatsoever. But I'll try. When I first heard about the praise that this film was getting, it was absolutely insane, especially when people were saying that this was going to be the big Best Picture winner.
Sure, I may have loved Whiplash, but I wanted to keep my expectations as leveled as possible, so I wasn't overhyping myself.
And as I sat down with my friend on New Year's Eve, I still felt myself thinking, come on Damien Chazelle, show me what you really got. And then, literally from the first opening number, I was hooked. The songs, composed and orchestrated by Justin Hurwitz and written by Benji Pasek and Justin Paul, were absolutely hypnotic. They had me wrapped in this familiar spell that I was caught in when I first saw films like An American in Paris, Holiday Inn, and Singing in the Rain. Matched with stellar choreography, excellent cinematography, and amazing editing, and you have a film that will easily go down in history with those films. Listening to songs like Someone in the Crowd, Audition, and A Lovely Night felt so nostalgic and heartwarming that I actually felt myself close to crying. And the same can be said for the story that never got overshadowed whatsoever by the music. Mia and Sebastian are a great couple to get invested in as you see them grow truly attached to one another and help each other find the spark that they need to reach true success. Needless to say, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling deliver the best performances of their careers, and I would happily place them in history as one of Hollywood's modern-day couples, much in the same vein as Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, or Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn.
Also, I have to give credit to La La Land for taking some risky moves with the cliché love story musical that I was absolutely happy about. Yes, it is a bit sad, but it is also one other thing: reassuring.
Considering 2016 has been one of the worst years to deal with, La La Land gave me a sense of feeling that while things aren't good and will no doubt get worse, there is a flicker of hope to be looking forward to that will make it all worth it.
It may take a while, but I'm willing to give the future a chance. Thanks, La La Land. Thanks for telling me that there are good things to look forward to in the future.
Somebody would have to be the one